Hello, my name's John. This is my Ork Genestealer Patriarch conversion, and you're watching Wargames, Models, and Other Hobbies. Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be adding a little bit of extra detail to my Genestealer Patriarch for a Ork Genestealer Cult. Now if you haven't seen the other videos in this series, I'll leave a link down in the description. What I'm going to be doing today is adding a little bit of detail to the body, but also sorting out this guy's staff, his banner pole, whatever it's going to be. So, first things first, I've actually got all of the parts that I need for the banner pole. I just need to work out how to put them together. So I'm looking at just having this pole in position, but I'm not sure how tall I'm going to have it until I've put all of these bits together. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm looking to have that top knot, a Genestealer skull, that section there, and then this one here. So looking at the back of this, I think I'm going to need to put in this rod. I haven't got one another size, so it's going to be slightly bigger there, but I don't think that's going to matter. So first things first, I'm actually going to glue this in place and then trim it to size afterwards. So I might carve a little bit out first, just to make it a little bit easier to glue it in place. Now I'm still not sure if I want to do a whole Ork Genestealer army. I have been coming up with a few ideas about the lore behind them. If you'd like to see some lore videos on that or any other subject, please drop it in the comments. I'd be happy to do so. Okay. So going to hold that in place and just tack some glue into there. And as always, it's going to move slightly before I do it. There we go. So I need to let that dry a little bit, and while that's drying, let's go back to the Patriarch, and I've got some shoulder pads that I want to add to this model. Now obviously, because it's a Ork Genestealer cult, it's going to be orkified. It's not going to be like another Genestealer cult that you see from humans and things like that. So things like shoulder pads, banner poles, all that kind of kit that you get with orcs, I want to include on this. So it's going to look unusual, but I like the idea of having shoulder pads and things like this on these guys. Now I want one on each forearm, and I think what I'm going to do is blue tack on the top to hold it in place, and then put some glue underneath to capillary in. So by holding that in place like that, that's kind of where I want it to be. It gives me just an extra way to hold it. So I may need to do some green stuff work on this later on, but for now, just playing around with these extra details. Let's just hold that in place. So yeah, obviously it's going to be slightly unusual because it's orcs rather than a human cult. But actually, let's let that one dry, and I'll come on to the second one in a minute. But it's one of those kind of things you can make it as wacky or as weird as you want. It's it doesn't matter if it fits in with other lore or things like that. I mean, there have been Genestealer hybrids for quite some time. I do actually have here the original Genestealer hybrid Ork model, which I will be doing another video about quite soon. But yeah, I like the idea of having unusual armies that aren't necessarily the norm. I don't make armies to play, I make them for interesting modelling projects. So how much do I have to trim this? Oh, I've got to trim that down quite a bit to get it close to there. But yeah, it's I like coming up with my weird ideas for conversions, and if this one becomes an army, that's going to be good fun. But it also comes down to cost at the end of the day. I do have so many projects. I just want to make sure I can finish most of them. Right, trim a little bit more, I think. Just a small amount. Helps if I do it on camera as well. But yeah, so far I really like the way that this Patriarch has turned out, as well as the other Ork character that I've created. So I am looking forward to possibly in the next few months making a few other models to go with this group. But we shall see. If you've got any ideas for things I can include in this army, please let me know. I have got at the back of my head an idea or two of the direction it could go, and like I said, if you want me to do a video on that down the line, quite happy to do so. Okay, I'm gonna carefully push that to side to let that dry, and we'll go back to the Patriarch here. I'm going to carefully take off that blue tack. I have to run some glue just on the back here. But I've got so many projects on at the moment, whether it's Space Marines, Necromunda, these Orks, or some of the other armies that I'm working on here and there. I am enjoying doing them as real-time videos, so you actually see how long it takes to go through the process of converting and making the different models. I do like to do it that way, as it lets people realise how long it takes. It's nice having videos that just show certain processes, but on the other hand, I don't like the false sense of how long things take with some videos. I know it's easier to watch, but it's not why I'm doing this channel. It's not what I do with my hobby. Anyway, I'm babbling a bit. Okay, I'm liking how that's looking at the moment. Still got to think of other details to add to this one. I'm not sure how orky I want it to go, but it is one of those things, as my idea behind this, as the Patriarch has been exposed to the Ork culture, it's going to have things that you wouldn't normally see. Safety squint. But yeah, it's just a fun little experiment in conversion. Now I don't know how well this is all going to hold just with glue. It might be a better idea down the line to have pinned this, but I may add a little bit more structure to areas later on. But this Genestealer skull definitely needs a little bit more glue in there. But yeah, I was wondering what to do for the banner pole for this character, and I like the idea of a totem. And if I play this character, I actually been thinking about how I could use it, and it works quite well as a weird boy. So it's a psychic character. Right, let's make sure I try and get that skull nice and level. There we go. So I'm going to have to do something to this later on to secure it a bit better, but for now I'm not going to worry too much. Just want to let that dry a little bit. I'll trim this to size, and this is going to go on the top of it. So let me just lay that down for a second and let me tidy up this flat plate on here. Is it in focus? There we go. But yeah, it's almost the end of January now, and doing a hobby roundup next for my videos this month, and doing a few other bits and pieces that I haven't filmed, so I'm looking forward to sharing those with you guys. Just want to say I appreciate people coming along and following my hobby. Yeah, that's going to line up well. Right, what I think I'm going to do, I'm not going to glue that on right now. Let's start having a look at the height of this. I think that currently is a little bit too tall. I want to bring that down to about there. Yeah, I want to bring it back down to about that height. So what I am going to do, I'm going to trim this down, and I'm going to leave some of the larger section on it. Just give me a little bit more surface area to then glue this onto here. I might have to reinforce this later on, I'm not sure, but we shall see later on once all of this glue dries. Let's hold that in place for a little bit. Whoop. Let's actually hold it in place rather than just let it go. Okay. Now I know I've still got a few mould lines here and there, but I'll sort those out later on. What I often find when I'm working on projects like this, although I stick bits down, I might take them off again, readjust them, play around with them a little bit. It'll evolve as I create the character of the model. Okay, that's now going to go on to there. So thinking about the paint scheme for these, obviously the Genestealer Patriarch, well not obviously, but the Genestealer Patriarch is the original Genestealer, so it is going to be more of a traditional Genestealer colour scheme, whereas the hybrid conversion that I did, actually I've got it just here if you haven't seen it, is going to be not necessarily green, as it kind of won't necessarily fit to it, but it might do. Not sure yet. I've got a few ideas, but okay. Now I'm happy with that banner pole at the moment, that staff. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can see this whole character. So there we have those shoulder pads and that banner. I'm going to let this dry now and see how it turns out. Probably do another video on this, adding more details later on, but for now, just thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to all of my new subscribers. If you're liking this video, drop a like, it's appreciated. But for now, my name's John, and you've been watching War Games, Models, and Other Hobbies.